Good morning. This is a foreigner living in the Philippines. Well, it's quite an important day all around the world, I think. Mr. Trump has now taken over the presidency of the US, and as I put on my Facebook page this morning, never has a nation been so divided. But what we have here now is two new presidents. That's assuming that Mr. Trump actually makes it to his presidency alive, which there is no guarantee. Then we'll have one of the major characters on the political scene, Miss Hillary, or Killary as I've heard her referred to, and there's going to be some retribution there probably. But what about the exchange between Duterte and Mr. Trump? President Duterte and Mr. Trump, or President Trump. What are these two presidents going to do? Well, they're going to square off. Now, this is where I think, and it's only my opinion, I think that President Duterte's MO of going around and courting other major political countries, major political powers, let's say. He's on friendly terms with Putin. He's on friendly terms with the Chinese now. Chinese have major plans for some of the South China Sea, which would be a key political point of defense, of attack for Chinese to America. They want to control that part of the world. America will not want them to control that part of the world. Now, I'm not an expert on that, not really that interested, although I should be. What seems to be the major concern, the major questions now, is how Mr. Trump and Mr. Duterte, the two presidents, will get along together. So President Duterte has made it clear that he is willing, more than willing, to actually work with the Chinese and the Russians, something that the Americans would definitely not want. Now, the Chinese would probably never have done what they've done in making an island and claiming land and creating land. They would never have done that if the Americans had been here in full power at Subic Bay. So we're going to have a redress of how things have been going in the last months. Mr. Duterte, President Duterte, has made it clear that he didn't think much of Mr. Obama, along with probably half the nation in America, that also seems to be a divided nation as far as Mr. Obama goes. So we now have two men who are, let's say, loose with their mouth, know very little about diplomacy or tact, and they're going to square off together, and they're going to reach some kind of an agreement. Now, how will that go? Well, instead of the usual diplomacy and the tact and the going around and around, they'll just come out and say what it is. Kind of reminds me of that story about the novice that enters a convent. She enters and she's put in a cell right on the east wing, overlooking an area where there are workmen working down below in the fields. And after about 2 weeks, she asks to see the Mother Superior, and she complains to the Mother Superior about the men and about how rough they are. And the Mother Superior says to her, well, what you have to understand is that these are common men. These are not educated men. They're the salt of the earth. They call a spade a spade. And the novice said, well, that's the trouble, Mother Superior. They don't. They call it an effing shovel. So what's going to happen is that President Duterte and President Trump are going to call it an effing shovel, and they're going to get along on that. And I think that the chances are that they may surprise everybody. They will square off. They might call each other some names, and at the end of it they'll go out and have a drink together. And then, with a new attitude from America toward the Philippines, there'll be a different deal. But the idea that people have, the fear that people have, that the Philippines will disassociate itself from America, I think is unfounded. It's being created as a new deal maker by President Duterte. And I think that what he did will actually produce that. What he did was he stood up and said, we're not a lapdog of the US anymore. Well, the Philippines has been a lapdog of many countries, you know, from the Spanish right through. And they've always accepted that inferior position. And I think that President Duterte has actually made that less than acceptable. He's not going to accept that. And even though they may not be ready, the Philippines may not be ready to step up into the role that he wants for them, they are going to have a stronger role, simply because of the position that they're in. They're in this key strategic position in the world, and they're going to demand more consideration, and that's going to work. Whether Mr. Trump is going to be able to turn America around is another thing, because he still has to deal with the same people that will either work with him or block him, as Obama had. He still has to get through all of that mess, and the question is, will he be able to do that? Now what we're looking at is that he has made lots of deals. He's made lots of deals, and apparently some of them are not so legal. Of that I have no knowledge. But what I do know is that what I read of Mr. Trump, long before he ever stated that he was interested in being president, was that he got things done. Now, whether he is able to get along and talk and say the right thing is neither here nor there. We had the Bush for 2 terms, and he couldn't even say the word nuclear. Even with all of those clever guys writing his speech, he couldn't actually pronounce the word nuclear and continued to call it nuclear. He couldn't string sentences together, and yet he was president for 2 terms. So why are we worrying so much about Mr. Trump and whether he can say the right thing at the right time, or whether President Duterte will do the same? Every man is guilty of locker room talk, and what's happening now is that presidents and people in leadership positions are talking locker room talk out in the open. And it's not new, it's happened before. We'll get used to it. It won't be great. There's no eloquence, there's no empathy as far as I can see. Mr. Bush, for one of his classics, when a woman was introduced to him as having lost 3 people, or two or three people in the 9/11 disaster, Mr. Bush said, "Oh, slam dunk." to the woman who had lost two people, two family members. That was his response. So we're used to it, actually, more used to it than we think. And it will produce some different kinds of moves and leadership. But in the end, it will be down to what suits each of the powers. Maybe the CIA won't have as much to do with it. Maybe they'll have more to do with it. All the behind scenes, all the financing of various people. Anybody that thinks that 9/11 was something that Bin Laden did and planned, they might have to look at that again. Here's a fact that really sort of struck me. They spent $40 million trying to impeach Clinton for his little escapades with a young woman, and they spent $15 million, that's $40 million for Clinton's impeachment, which failed, to $15 million trying to find out what happened that cost over 4,000 people their lives. So that gives you an idea of how fair the world is when it comes to working out the truth. Despite all of the information that's come out about, say, 9/11, there's still no action on it, and there probably never will be. So, how are we going to do? Boy, time will tell. But I think that the two will square it off. It'll be a fight, there'll be blood, and then they'll get down to business. That's my thought. So, this is a foreigner in the Philippines. We'll look forward to hearing what happens, I think. Bye for now.
Yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Have a good day, and God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.